Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. So with Elon Musk's successful bid of Twitter, he's now promising an era of free speech where accounts aren't banned for holding unfashionable or unpopular views. One of the people who had his account banned a number of years ago is comedy writer Graham Linehan. Will he be getting his Twitter account back? Well, Graham Linehan joins me now. Welcome. Thanks for coming. And, of course, a lot of people will know you from your work on Father Ted and Black Books and the IT crowd. But this whole debate about Twitter, you've become embroiled in this ever since you got kicked off the platform. People might not know why you were kicked off. Do you want to give them some kind of background?
Well, neither do I. Twitter told the press that it was because I was misusing the platform. Right. But they'd never contacted me. And the other people who've been talking about women's rights, Megan Murphy, Holly Lawford-Smith, Stuart Campbell in Scotland, who also ran the nationalist website Wings Over Scotland, they all have the same story. They were never told what they were banned for.
But it was said that you were misgendering people or that kind of thing.
I gave my... One thing a friend of mine said, oh, your account seems to be under attack. You should download your archive.
Yes.
So I downloaded my entire Twitter archive and I sent it to Joanna Cherry to prove that I hadn't misgendered anyone, hadn't abused anyone.
Yes.
Basically, I just started talking about the kind of inconsistencies and the kind of incoherent nature of gender ideology.
Yes.
And Twitter has created a space where gender ideology kind of makes sense because any man who hates women can just change their pronouns on their bio to she, her, and use it to get women kicked off the platform. So I was kind of trying to stand up against that.
Yes, and you were in this battle, and it got quite pugilistic, I suppose you would say, some of the exchanges that you got into.
Yeah, but I have to say, I was much less pugilistic than I was when I was doing fisticuffs with the right.
Right.
You know, like when I was a good soldier for the left, there was never a problem with me. But as soon as I started talking about women's rights, that's when the hammer came down. I had like 10, 11 years of complete freedom on Twitter. But as soon as I started talking about women's rights, that was it.
So your view on this is that this is very much an ideological problem within Twitter itself?
Yeah, and you can tell by the amount of people from, you know, different races, different political persuasions who have been banned for this very reason.
Yes.
You know, this is purely ideological, you know?
So when people point to sort of when you've insulted someone or anything on Twitter, but like you say, there are other accounts who've never engaged in anything like that. They've just got this opinion that you share, and they've been kicked off.
Yeah, I'm Irish, so I don't really... I like a fight. But people like Megan Murphy and Holly Lawford-Smith, like Holly is an academic, Megan is a very soft-spoken Canadian. Yes. And you know Canadians. If you're a soft-spoken Canadian, that's very soft-spoken. and they have just been banned because, basically, Twitter created a new sacred class, which is anyone who calls themselves trans, and you're not allowed to say anything to them.
So, I mean, I've seen people kicked off even just for stating biological facts.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and
the last tweet I remember doing was one that just said, men aren't women. Right. And I was told later on that, oh, well, that was on a Trans Day of Remembrance. It's like, when is it not a Trans Day of Remembrance?
And the other thing about this is we've now seen, and you've recently published a piece on your Substack about why you feel you were banned from Twitter, and it looks like there is now evidence emerging that there has been a database of 4,000 gender-critical individuals, and that trans activists have actually been targeting and mass reporting these accounts, and that Twitter has responded in kind and has taken these accounts off. I mean, you've posted this big, long list of these 4,000 people. Yeah,
and I would say the most shocking one of all of them is Fred Sargent. Fred Sargent was one of the people who was at Stonewall, at the Stonewall, at the riots. He's one of the men who organised the first New York Pride March. Yes. You know? So he was fighting for LGBT rights when it was actually physically dangerous to do so.
Yes.
And, like, you know, he should be enjoying his retirement and he should be looking forward to people celebrating what he achieved. But instead, he's now in a situation where he's been banned from Twitter and he's trying to correct this kind of revisionism that places trans people at the centre of the Stonewall riots, when, of course, it was gay men largely, you know. But, of course, you know, one of the other things it does is there was a lesbian, Stormé de Lavery, who was responsible for kicking the whole thing off. Apparently, she shouted, "Why aren't you guys doing something?" to the crowd that were gathered around the Stonewall Inn. And they're trying to say that she was a trans man, that she was like a trans person. She was a butch lesbian. So Fred is there looking at the history that he was a part of being erased.
Yes.
And now they've thrown him off the platform.
I've seen that quite a lot with people trying to change historical figures and revise, and people like James Miranda Barry, and a woman who dressed as male in order to get through the medical profession.
Oh, it's full of it. I saw George Eliot. I saw them could say George Eliot was trans.
Simply because she
had to have a male name to get published. I mean,
it's such a basic misinterpretation of history, isn't it?
Yeah, but it all sounds good if you're not really paying attention. I mean, I think a lot of what's happening is people are kind of depending on people not paying attention.
Right.
And one thing I've found out over the last few years is that people just do not care about women's rights. Even other women. Many women are supporting this stuff,
So we've been showing images of the database of these people who've been targeted. And when I posted a couple of days ago, I posted a link to your Substack, a lot of the comments were coming from gay men, gay people, or women, or lesbians. So these are the people who've mostly been kicked off as a result of this. So it seems to be, if Twitter was really caring about marginalised groups and worried about them, why wouldn't that be a concern?
Because there's only one marginalised group that matters, and that's people who call themselves trans. And it's not even like transsexuals, because you would think that it would be transsexuals who would be the group that they're trying to protect. But it's not. It's just anyone who says, well, my pronouns are now she. Now you are a member of the trans community.
Do you have any evidence, though, that Twitter is ideologically targeting these accounts, other than the fact that so many people have said it's happened to them?
Well, it's their terms and conditions. They now say that basically misgendering is a banning offence.
Yes.
But of course, what they call misgendering, we call accurately sexing.
Yes, of course.
Do you know what I mean? I would say it's misgendering if you say someone like Alex Drummond, who has a full beard and calls himself a lesbian. I think it's misgendering when you call him a woman. But of course, it's this upside down world that they've created, and within it. The logic of the world makes complete sense. But as soon as you get outside it and you deal with rape crisis centres or sports or anything like that, it falls apart. So
yes.
Twitter's created this kind of wonderland where up is down and black is white, and nothing really exists outside of it. And unfortunately, the biggest problem is that most of our media class are on Twitter. And they're fully invested in this stuff,
And do you think it's going to make a difference, Elon Musk coming to the platform? Because it seems like a lot of people who say they're left-wing, they're getting very upset about this. And it's almost like they're not getting upset because they'll be banned, because they won't be banned. They're getting upset because they can't censor other people or ban other people.
They're annoyed because Elon Musk is going to do the very thing they've been doing to women for the last 5-6 years. Like they're worried that Elon Musk is going to allow... basically everyone who I mean, it's hard to explain, but it doesn't even make sense within the rules Twitter creates.
Right.
Like, for instance, Meghan Murphy, she used the words "that's him" about a guy called Jonathan Yaniv, who also is called Jessica Yaniv, and he was going by male and female pronouns at the time.
Right.
And she said, "That's him."
And he himself was using those pronouns.
Yes. And they banned her because of that. And so they didn't ban her because she'd done something wrong. They banned her because they don't like her and they wanted rid of her.
I mean, it's very interesting just seeing Joanna Cherry talking to that representative from
Katie
Twitter.
Minshall. Yes.
Katie Minshall. And she was asking her about Twitter's policies, because Katie Minshall is an executive at Twitter who was there to defend this. And
yes.
in this clip, we hear again and again all these examples of feminists who've been kicked off, even for quoting... elements, debates from within Parliament about the Gender Recognition Act, just for quoting that. In other words, Twitter users don't have the freedom to simply quote parliamentary legislation without being kicked off, if it's ideologically not aligned with the platform.
Yeah, as I say, Twitter's created a kind of wonderland where up is down and black is white, and basically anyone who kind of falls foul of these rules that are completely incoherent and change from moment to moment can get banned. So really what you have is a group of people who are, I mean, I've been liberal left-leaning all my life, but like these people who run Twitter, they're liberal left-leaning, and they think their job is to try and silence every opinion that is not theirs.
Yes.
You know, and it's like, you know, I said to you earlier, Andrew, like if they hadn't started coming after women, I would never have noticed.
Well, because
I was happy that they were coming after right-wing people. I thought, yeah, they're.
Oh,
excuse me, I'm sorry.
I do have to apologise for the language there.
I'm so sorry.
No. It's the strength of feeling. I understand.
And that was the old me. You know,
yes.
Now I realise that there's a huge kind of a range of opinions within right-wing conservative spaces and within left-wing spaces. But at the time, I had this very kind of what would you call it, hardline view on the right or on conservatives that I realised was kind of engendered by the fact that Twitter was such a fake space.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
So, I mean, you were a sense part of this kind of tribal war yourself.
Oh, yeah, I was doing it to everyone. I was doing it to other people.
Do you regret that at all?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I said it, you know, like I got it wrong on a number of things. I got it wrong on Jonathan Pye. I got it wrong on Count Dankula. I got it wrong. And you know what I'm really worried about is all the times I got it wrong and no one pulled me up on it, you know? And I always say to people that if I could go back, if I got my Twitter account back, I would actually erase everything before I started talking about women's rights. Right. Because it's only this that I know I'm right on. Everything else, I don't know anymore. Because I was trusting the same people who are calling feminists Nazis. Do you know what I mean?
I do. I understand.
And I now know they're just full of nonsense.
Well, Graham, thanks very much for joining us tonight. Thank you.